I'm Christopher Titus, and this is the Armageddon Update. And one of the most amazing rights we have in this country is the right to free speech. Like right now, I can say legally, I believe the president is a butt plug the color of an orange safety cone who is destroying democracy from the inside out, yet can't spell the word democracy. Wait for it. Look at that. No stormtroopers, no one came to get me. Now, people are going to respond to this video with genius responses like, you and Obama are butt plugs. Hillary's a butt plug. And they have the right to be that lame and uncreative because they also have the First Amendment. Now, the First Amendment gave me a job. Thank you, Founding Fathers. I'm a white male with the right to free speech. On the other hand, Saudi Arabia killed Jamal Khashoggi. They don't have the right to free speech. And they killed him because he wrote truthful articles going after the Saudi prince. Now, we could say Saudi Arabia edited Jamal Khashoggi with a bone saw. Well, women in this country don't seem to have the same rights to free speech or around the world. And I don't mean in the 20s or the 30s because before that, women didn't even really talk. They were just sexual servants that popped out kids like cattle to work the farm. At least that's what my dad taught me. Women are still getting told to shut up, shutting up. Last year, 29 Iranian women were arrested for protesting the country's compulsory headscarf law, which is used by the country's clerics to keep broads from getting too lippy. That's in the Quran. And men in those countries can't seem to control themselves when they see a hot earlobe because we all know that the earlobe is just the skull's clitoris. Now, in Russia, the female punk rock group Pussy Riot was sentenced to harsh penalties for protesting the Putin regime and the Orthodox Church. And two of the members of Pussy Riot had to move to Sweden to hide out. Because Sweden is heaven on earth, and everybody in Sweden has both genitalia. That's how that works. In March 2015, a 27-year-old Afghan woman was beaten to death and burned by a mob on the streets of Kabul after rumors were circulated that she had desecrated the Quran. Yeah, she didn't like a book, so they set her on fire and killed her, dead. And in America, Kathy Griffin, a comedian, took a picture that was a joke about something the president said that was heinous, and she was investigated by numerous government agencies, raked over the coals in the press, put on the no-fly list for 2 months, and to this day continues to get death threats. Now, if I was Kathy, I would tone down the red hair. Too easy to target lock in that bright fuchsia dew. Now, no one would work with her, and she was charged with a crime. For a fucking joke. This is not the America I was taught about. This is an America where one orange, illiterate, fat man is taking apart the country one piece at a time and lying about it the whole way. And to those of you that think, doesn't involve me, none of my business, then you're part of it. The old saying is, for evil to win, all it takes is for good men to be silent. But if you're silent about your fellow Americans having their rights taken away for a fucking joke, then aren't you evil? I'm Christopher Titus, and this is the Armageddon Update. Coming up, people, the amazing, the funny, the talented, the resilient Kathy Griffin. Hey everybody, Christopher Titus Podcast. How you doing? Welcome to the first episode of Podcast on Video. That's right. We got moving pictures this time. With me, as always, Bombshell Ray.
What's up, people?
The beautiful Rachel Bradley. And honoring us with the first time we're doing this, which is really crazy because all I kept thinking was, oh no, it's going to go horribly wrong. The great, the amazing, the legendary Kathy Griffin, ladies and gentlemen.
What? Give it up. Oh
amazing.
My gosh, she is fantastic.
She is
such good things.
You do not have to blow your own horn. I will blow you and your horn.
Finally.
So thanks for being on the podcast. You have gone through in the last couple of years a nightmare raging
of historic proportions.
Yeah, but
never happened.
But do you find this? Do you find that on the other side of nightmare is like this because it's obviously. And I hate this when people say, yeah, all press is good press, because it's not. It wasn't good press.
I have a line actually in the film where it's a stand-up portion of the film. It's a docu-comedy, so like a third of it is doc and 2/3 are like a stand-up special. And I have a line which is, I've learned there is such a thing as bad publicity.
Yeah.
It really is real. We're all wrong.
How many, what number special is this for you?
This will be 24.
And
wow.
Fuck you. That's
Thank
horrible.
You very much.
That's the highest.
Don't make me blush.
That is by far the highest compliment I can give you.
Yes.
Whenever someone does amazing that impresses me and has me envy, I just do this.
I'm welling up. You're making me emotional. Every time you
it's
flip
like
me
a
off,
hug.
it's a hug from a comic. It's a hug.
I have changed what the middle finger means.
So Carlin was 24, right?
Nope. Carlin had 14 specials and 21 albums.
21.
And in fact, when I was approached by the Guinness Book of World Records people, that's who had the current record. So no disrespect to the great George Carlin, of course, but it was quite a high number.
But you won. Yeah.
And I broke my own record.
So how do you look? I think I am considered that I write really hard. I'm on my ninth special, 90-minute special.
Great.
Do you write on the toilet all the time? Like, how are you getting this done? How is it possible you're getting this done?
You know what's funny? The way I write is no different than when I started stand-up in like the early 90s, which is I still have an old-timey like CVS grocery store notebook, and I write bullets, and that's it. And sometimes you can just look at a page, and like my tour manager, also my boyfriend, don't judge, like he'll look at just a page of bullets and he'll be like, okay, that's 4 hours, because they're just jumping off points, So I'm constantly thinking, like I'm sure you are, where you're constantly, I mean, I know I do corny stuff, like put stuff in my iPhone, and I have like a special email called KG, joke file and stuff. But it's just a constant process of, if something is happening to me, that's usually where I like to start to make it personal. So that way, A, no one can steal my jokes because they're my own stories and my own personal experience. Right. And B, I have known, and I think you might identify with this, I am a magnet for crazy. So I feel that I was truly born to be a comic because I'm very comfortable around crazy. I grew up in an alcoholic family. I've never had a drink in my life. And so one of my favorite things to do as someone who's never had a drink is just watch my drunk friends and then tell them what they did the next day. Then sometimes I give them a choice, may I put that in the act? And sometimes I reject their no. You know what I mean? But
that's because the people you hang out with is pretty crazy. The people that it's. I've never been a big fan of show business people.
Right.
I've met some of them. I think early. There's like exceptions. Dana Carvey. There's some awesome people. Bruce Springsteen. There's people that we've met that I'm like, oh, if you weren't Bruce Springsteen, you'd still be a cool dude.
Yes.
Carvey is the nicest human being on the planet. Billy Gardell. There's people that I love. You are really nice. I can hang out with you. But I wouldn't even hit that level. But I'm just saying that show business people bother me sometimes. Do you have? Because I have this with my family. My new show's about my family. It's called Stories I Shouldn't Tell. It was stories I couldn't tell because then everybody died, and now I can tell them.
Can't defame the dead.
Exactly.
Can't defame the dead. I love that.
So it got to a point when I first wrote Norman Rockwell's Bleeding, I'd show up and people would like, we're not going to tell you any more stories. They got quiet. Does that happen with your friends?
Absolutely. It happens. It happens. It's happened so many times. It's happened with celebrity friends, civilian friends. And my favorite, though, is, I don't know if you get this, is I always love when someone who is, I'm a proud D-lister, but let's say even like an E- lister will make a much bigger production of Don't Put This in Your Act than the biggest star on the planet.
Right.
And those are my favorite, where I have to just lovingly go, you don't have to worry because no one knows who you are or cares. So don't worry. It's even if you do say something that's shocking, no one. It would take me 20 minutes to set up who you are, and then maybe they would laugh. So I'm just going to go right to share, or something like that. But yes, I've had many celebrities try to make deals with me. They try to make okay, I'm going to tell you something, but you can't ever put it in the act. And I go,
why are you telling me?
Don't even. Yeah. And I just say, we can't. Now, of course, I'm a human being. So if I have, a friend or a celebrity or a quasi-celebrity, if they say like, this is a painful thing, can we have cone of silence? I do, I keep more secrets than anything. And so someday I want a goddamn medal for all the stuff I haven't said about celebrities, believe it or not. But in the meantime, yes, honestly, of course, I've lost friends. But I want to ask you this because...
hold on.
Just this is such a cliche example, but like for 10 years, obviously the Kardashians hated me. All of them. Yes. Even... Kendall and Francine or whatever, the other ones that keep multiplying.
Lipitor. What's the name of them?
I think one of them is Prozac.
Yes.
No, but anyway.
Or it should be.
And and then this nice thing happened, and I had, you'll love this. I had a great conversation with Rickles, and Rickles would tell me about, in his day, the celebrities that were genuinely mad at him. Because, for us, we think of it being an honor to have Rickles, say anything about you, right?
Right.
And in fact, one time, the first time I met Rickles, I went to see him in Vegas at the Flamingo Hilton, and I was on Suddenly Susan, and it was with Brooke Shields, and she was with Andre Agassi at the time.
Oh, no.
And we were all in the banquette, and he starts ripping into Brooke, and she's just laughing and loving it, and he starts ripping into Andre about, the mullet and all this other stuff. And Andre is, legit pissed. And I remember Brooke saying, Andre, no, it's an honor, and he called you out. And, I told Rickles that story later. I said, Andre really was offended. He has no sense of humor. And then he started telling me about how, in his day, Gregory Peck would come up and confront him. The biggest movie stars in the world.
Don, I'd like to speak to you. That's crazy.
Yes, and he would do an impression of it. And I said, what would you do? And he's like, double down. Because he goes, you're never going to get him anyway.
Yep.
And he said, doesn't mean I would tell every Gregory Peck story, but, certainly now that he's passed away and stuff. But, that's kind of the deal. Is sometimes celebrities, like Jimmy Kimmel and Howard Stern have this pact that they will never, ever come to my house because they're convinced that I'll talk about it in my act. And I was like, oh, you two are so precious. As if you don't tell everything about yourselves anyway.
Yeah,
You're
right.
on every single day. I have nothing new to reveal. And so that's been kind of sticking around. But actually, I went to Jimmy's for Thanksgiving, which was really nice. And,
But you flipped the Kardashian thing because you're friends now.
That's right. I have become pro-Kardashian, and I'll tell you why. Because after 2 years of Trumpers letting me know that they want to shoot me in the cunt, cut my head off, and then put my head up my cunt,
then quote a Bible verse, right?
That's
after.
right.
And then they will.
It's
Praise Jesus.
End of days and evangelical, and they're sure that I was in with Hillary with the pizza parlor.
Sure.
I was flipping
the
the
kids
dough or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And so I realized that the Kardashians, they're just kind of materialistic and stupid. So I'll take it. I will take. I've lowered the bar.
And these are her friends.
Not malicious,
That's right.
Not malicious
Not
at all.
at all malicious. And in fact, one of the things I love about the film Kathy Griffin, Hell of a Story, is I do want to break up some of the Trump stuff, because some of the Trump stuff is legit heavy, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea that I really did live right next door to Kim and Kanye during the entire Trump scandal, it just writes itself. And I mean so close that if I opened my window, we could shake hands.
Wow.
So I truly didn't know that they lived there when I bought the house. I thought they had moved back to Hidden Hills. And I kind of cold called the mom, who, I'm afraid of, because I think she's killed people. I can't prove it.
Listen, there is
I'm
there
with
is
you on
If
that.
need be.
there is a Jason Bourne-ness to her
And
that
not
I
out of
think
maliciousness.
not
Necessity.
Just
Necessity.
because, right? This
Like an Abel Ferrara movie. Just, when you have to. And
I actually saw her at church, and she was
Yeah.
in disguise on Easter Sunday. You would think
Like
that
Jesus.
you wouldn't have to disguise yourself at
I
church.
thought they went to church every time I see those photos, it's like they're going down a runway. I thought they'd be in the full head to toe hair, makeup,
No.
heels, 18 inches high.
No.
No.
Well, how did
Interesting.
you feel about the
She
whole...
wasn't in burlap either. It wasn't like she was.
No,
Yeah, she was.
well,
Well,
the
I
sunglasses
was gonna
and a
say,
hat, and she
yeah.
was, how did you feel then about the whole Kanye-Donald Trump thing?
Well, we had words. And
Really, you confronted him on it.
well, first of all, I call him Pobs, because he went through a phase where on his clothing line, on the side of everything, it would say Pablo, because I think he went through a
Yeah.
phase where he thought he was Pablo Picasso, which we all do.
Hey, there was
we
an album.
I remember those 2 years in high school where I
Yeah,
said,
it's
if you don't
really-
call me Salvador Dali, don't call me anything.
That's exactly.
And so to this day, I call him Pobs. Sometimes he laughs, sometimes he's
Not.
there.
I went through. I am Georgia O'Keeffe, and that's what my name. I went
Thank
through
you.
that. Yeah,
and
I
I
went through
will
that for.
respect that for as long
Thank
as
you.
it makes you comfortable.
And I also plan on levitating before I die. So I just
It
wanted to
gets
put
you
that
through the
out
day.
there.
It passes
you know?
the time. The
Okay.
planet has 2 years max.
Yes.
Wow.
All right. So yes, and when he went to Trump Tower, I didn't talk to him about the last time where he went. He was in the Oval Office
Yeah.
with Jim Brown and that whole
Yeah.
That was an
craziness.
amazing. It was two guys that
Oh
had
my
word
gosh.
salad trying to talk. I was like, wow. Weirdly
Right.
enough, I thought this is exactly the two people that should be talking.
Yeah.
Because neither one of them's fucking saying anything that makes any sense.
No, and Kanye revealed recently that he's actually never voted in his life.
Yes,
awesome.
we saw that Dave Letterman.
Right?
Did you watch
now,
it?
You know the Donald must have been like, oh. Like,
Yeah, I know.
I thought you actually were gonna like gin up the African American.
Right.
You know, Trump
I know.
loves to. There's my black. He loves to
Yes.
say, "Where's my black? Where's my
There's
black?
my
Yes.
African American.
Where's my African American?"
Yes.
And so I did ask him after he went to Trump Tower. I'm like, "Hey, what's going on? I don't need this." I made it about me. I'm like, "Hey, I don't need this."
Right.
And she goes like this. She goes, "He wasn't in his right mind." I'm like, "Thank you, girl. That's all I
Well,
needed to hear.
wow.
That is all I
Such
needed
a
to hear."
surprise.
Wow.
That was so hard to tell. He
I
hid
know,
it so
but
well.
now he's like tweeting about being bipolar. Oh, I have.
Oh, he's owned it. I like it. By the way, I like him better because of that.
Absolutely.
I'm like, okay.
Absolutely.
Even the Letterman thing, there was a moment Letterman called him on something, and we
called him on not voting. He
Called
said,
him-
then you don't get a say.
And
And you could see his eyes
he's-
change.
He's didn't get it.
My mom was
Yeah.
manic
Get it.
depressive schizophrenic, and so when I saw the look, I was like, there it is. There it
Right.
is.
That's
I know
right.
that look right
Yeah.
there.
And I have to say, I thought David was very gentle with
I
him.
did too.
Oh,
I
there
mean,
was
and you
fear,
know
some
David,
fear
like when you
pop.
did that show,
Yeah.
you had to bring your A game because
Yeah,
you
oh,
never
yeah.
know. It really was all about David. Like if he was in a good mood or a bad mood, or if he liked you or didn't like you.
Or if he did
and-
something crazy, Crispin Glover. I'll never forget when Crispin Glover threw a kick at his head, and the next we come back from commercial, and Crispin Glover's gone. Like it was gone. It was
like
awesome.
Dave did not play that, you
yeah,
know.
right.
And I actually respected that he was so gentle with Kanye, and he talked about the mental health stuff a lot.
Yeah.
And the David I knew, I mean, it must have been the heart attack. Like seriously, like my dad had a heart attack, and it like opened his emotions wide open.
His
but
dad too.
yeah, did that happen after your dad?
Yeah, this guy who was just the toughest John Wayne-ish type, Clint Eastwoody, just
Right.
would burst into tears.
To be
And-
fair,
yeah.
he had 6 heart attacks.
He had 6 heart attacks. Yeah, 6
But
heart
after the
attacks.
6th
Well-
one, he was a mess.
Are you wait? Do you have any Irish in you at all?
Yeah.
Okay, because my dad had 4. Like I think it goes with our people. If
That's
I may.
awesome. That's I
Yeah.
feel so good about
I
that.
do
They
love
work
a
out.
racial generality, and I will throw the Irish Catholics under the bus. Being one, I feel I can.
Yeah.
But no, I thought the David interview with Kanye was actually fascinating because he kind of was able to like take him down to earth a little bit and have a real conversation. But I still laugh at the moment where Kanye really did take over the entire Oval Office. You could tell even Jim Brown was like, "Look, I got a cane. All right, I didn't sign up for this level of anxiety."
Yes.
Now I think you know.
There's a shot of Trump during it where Trump looks like we all have that thing where someone just I have some relatives that will just overtalk.
Yeah.
And you're just like. And you can see Trump just going glaze, like, what is he saying? When
You know,
Trump
it was
doesn't
a
know what you're
double-edged
saying.
sword. It was like you could tell Trump was like, "This is a good bump for me,"
Yeah.
and then he went,
And-
"Maybe not."
Yeah, this is
Like it's
going-
actually not about me at this moment, and the Donald does not care for that.
Right. I want to ask one more thing about celebrities that you've done this to.
Yeah.
When you've done this to, I find whether it's a roast or whatever. I was just reading Jeff Ross thing about Ann Coulter. Celebrities, if you're out there and Kathy goes after you, Jeff Ross anybody goes after you, the best thing to do when you're on camera is laugh your ass off. You look when like George Clooney, some like just that anybody, Matt Damon, bursts in laughter about what someone made
Can
fun
you
of him.
believe how many of them still don't get it?
You just laugh.
They
You look.
still don't get
Yeah.
it.
You look like the best person. You look like you deserve
You're
your
the cool
millions.
one.
You look like
Exactly.
You
deserve-
are the cool one.
Exactly.
right,
Yeah.
and they just don't get it. They get offended. You know, weirdly enough, and a guy who I like him.
Yeah.
Bill Maher. When Katie got on him,
Katie Porter.
Katie
yeah.
Porter nailed him on his show the other week, and I love Bill, by the way.
Yeah.
He got mad.
Yeah.
She nailed him. Audience went nuts. He stood up and said, "Fuck you" to the audience, and I was like.
Right.
You can't do that.
Right,
You
right.
can't do that.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
Just laugh your. When someone rips me hard, I'm the first guy to go, "Wow, that's genius."
Yes.
And I'm an ass, and you're right. Whatever. It's
Of
I don't know.
course. Yes.
So I have a couple questions for you. I want to say I'm sorry your friend Gloria Vanderbilt passed.
Yeah.
95 though, good run.
95, great run. And I mean, we had so many conversations. And, I wrote a thread about her yesterday, but I
Read
only
it.
wanted
It's
to do
awesome.
personal picks because I didn't want to do like we went to a opening of a Ralph Lauren store together. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do like I'm chasing her around to public events. But honestly, it was just one of those things. Well, first of all, I'm the youngest of 5. And so I've just always had an affinity for older folks. Like a lot of my friends are 90. In fact, I'm kind of frankly bored with you guys. I'm really
I know.
into
Well,
90
oh,
and
all
over.
right.
Yeah.
I'm old.
eh.
I do too.
Where's your walker? Where's your walker with the basketball?
My best
That's where you
friend
got me, baby.
is 86 years old, and when I performed in Irvine, my friends know that I just love old people,
Yeah.
and so they got the Fullerton Flashers to come out to my show.
this old flash
they're
mob, like
a flash mob, and they're all over 80. I almost exploded.
You can't get the millennials to do that.
No,
they're bored now.
No.
It's fantastic. And they have the stories.
Yep.
And I find that so many of these folks just reach a certain age. Sometimes it's 65, sometimes it's 70, whatever, where they just don't give a fuck anymore.
Exactly.
And as she would let me call her Glow Vandy, she just had the most amazing stories. And she would say things like, I fucked hot Brando, not fat Brando. And I was like, good for you, girl. And, she just was open and candid. And she would have these dinner parties where, I'm not kidding, I would do like research and development because she was such an intellectual. And she'd have these dinner parties with, members of the literati or someone who won this prize and that prize and some celebrities. But I would actually ask her to send me the guest list. And I don't even know what excuse I came up with. And I would look all of them up. So I would not sound like a complete asshole. Like, I didn't go to college.
Also,
I felt super insecure about that. So I was like, okay, I have to keep up with this conversation.
How amazingly whorish is that of you? That's great.
Yeah.
Like, and actually, when we did radio last
brilliant.
week, no, it's brilliant. It's actually fucking brilliant. And then, like, when we did radio
I'd
last
look
week,
at a guy I didn't know, and I'd be like, Bill, I thought your last book that was released only in Toronto was so good.
that's awesome.
Just random.
I am so not hoary
wiki
like
facts.
that. That's
just
great.
Random,
Even when we did radio last week, I was like, I was with the guys in the station, Todd and Tyler, and you were on the phone, and I was like, I think I'm a good whore. I do. I think I'm pretty good.
I will out whore you.
Yeah.
You have no. There is no. I mean, we're gonna cut to a close up of it. You brought your poster in because can I have this on camera all the time?
Right.
In fact, can we put it in front of the camera and then we'll talk behind it?
That's right.
That's what you
wanted. I
wanted.
can do a voiceover and just hold the poster. I mean, I don't care if my muscles shake.
I respect that. I love
you.
it because there's so many guys.
I've got tickets to sell, baby. You
I know.
got the hustle
Butts
on.
in seats.
Yes.
Butts in
Oh,
seats.
yes.
So we have there's so many comics that you ever get off radio and someone will go, would you teach all the comics to do that? You get up, yeah.
But does it ever scare you though when someone goes like, "Wow, that was a really good interview"? Like I remember the first time someone told me that, and I remember it was for Details magazine, it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
I had done an article for Details, and I remember the reporter being like, "Wow, that." And then sure enough, it was the first piece that came out. Right, I was like really naming names and talking smack, and I had that feeling in the pit of my stomach. And then I thought, this is what I do. I gotta get used to it.
Right.
So it once again double-edged sword because when I hear that, of course, it's a compliment.
Yep.
And then part of me thinks, oh, God, what did I say? And you replay it in your head.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I went for my mom. Okay, she's fair game. She's agreed. She's signed an NDA that's you can't believe. No, I'm just kidding. But, I get nervous. Have you ever been confronted?
I have been. Oh, the last special I wrote, Armageddon, was about that what happened and I always try to pick what my show's about. But I've had some people flat out come up to me and wait in the merch line and just be like, hey, you know what?
Alt-right.
Yeah, fuck you, dude. And Trump's bad for this country, and we need these damn minorities. And we actually had a guy. I forget.
Wait, is this at a Christopher Titus show?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's not a lineup show. It's not a charity
No.
where you don't know what you're getting.
No.
The ticket says
Christopher Titus,
right.
Armageddon.
Okay.
You can look up the show.
That's rough because
Well, I don't.
at least then you have the freedom to go, hey, you bought the ticket. It didn't say MAGA rally.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I also have.
So what's your go-to answer?
I hate bullies, but I'm a really good bully.
Oh
so
my God, your Twitter bullying
the
is
second someone
level 10.
I never start it, but I will go after it.
And you've dropped the knowledge. Like
I
I didn't know. I
He's
mean,
been
and I'm not.
researching.
I don't want to paint a picture of you like this. He knows a lot about guns.
He did.
He fights with those gun people, and he knows all the milligrams and the decibels or whatever they are.
The problem is for 8 years.
Magazines.
I'm pretty sure
magazines.
that's it.
There's one.
I
word.
like milligrams and decibels.
Yeah,
frankly.
decibels. Yeah, the decibel. Well, from Jared Loeffner, who shot Gabby Giffords. I have started researching it.
That was our first podcast we ever did.
And we've done 12 or 15 mass shooting podcasts, and I've gotten all this knowledge over these last 8 years, and there's no argument for it.
Yeah.
There's no argument for the current system we have. Period. At all.
Right.
And there's a guy named Steven Crowder who's one of these just if he hears about it, he's a right-wing douchebag.
Yep.
And him and I got in a big argument about it one time, and he kept saying like, "Oh, assault rifle." Like his whole thing was not. He doesn't. So they called me again. They wanted me on the show again. I said, "Hey, you don't want to fix it. Like if you want to fix it, I'll go on the show. If you don't want to fix it, fuck off."
Right.
Anyway,
that guy also started the whole free speech bullshit because now the alt-right, as you know, they're co-opting free speech as they co-opted Occupy.
Right.
If you remember
Like
Occupy,
the N-word.
guy Fox Mass, that was Occupy was a bunch of liberals in New York with tents and all this other stuff, and now they've co-opted the Occupy crowd, the Wiki crowd, obviously. WikiLeaks used to be something else, and with the gun thing, they're trying to, they're almost going back to the Sarah Palin, like they're going to take away the Second Amendment tomorrow, but except now people really do believe it.
But could we all take take a moment just to really celebrate the fact that Alex Jones accidentally sent child porn to the attorneys
I think
of the children.
And in 2 days, the excuses changed. It went from they framed me to someone.
Then he threatened their lives.
And then today was a third party sent child porn. So he's backtracking so hard.
Yeah.
Douglas, I tweeted out today.
No, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it because I cannot believe. First of all, obviously Trump went on his freaking web show, so it's like but I cannot believe the people, young people that think he is news, think that is the real legit news. And my whole thing is Facebook, social media is not news. Like, I'm sure if you want to tweet something, I know it's shocking because it turns out that your aunt from Tuscaloosa really does know about QAnon. And by the way, I still haven't really unpacked QAnon.
No.
Do they think Trump is Q?
Can't figure that out
Q?
now either. Yeah.
It's the Illuminati somewhere that is supposed to have the real inside scoop.
Is QAnon like a morphing thing? Like, does it, or is it one story and they've stuck to it?
No, I think it's a morphing.
It's a morphing
I do
thing.
too.
Whatever.
And that's why I'm confused by it.
It is a reason to believe whatever they want to believe, and nobody.
But
in fact,
I think it's crazier than Pizzagate.
Yes.
I was going to say I'm pretty sure Facebook is accurate with news because that's where I heard about Pizzagate, which is obviously true.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
That's right. Clearly,
Exactly.
there's so many sex rings and basements of pizza
Clearly,
parlors,
that's
especially
why she
Common
didn't
Pizza,
win.
which doesn't even have a basement.
Yeah, especially
So,
No, they filmed
that was
it.
a shock.
They had to film.
Fake news.
Yeah.
Nope.
And-
Fake
and
news.
How
also-
confused was the guy with the gun that showed up? How confused was that
I'm
guy?
sorry. Do you mean the crisis actor?
Yeah, crisis actor. He showed up at the pizza parlor, going to find the
Where
basement.
are the stairs?
Couldn't find the basement.
Where are the stairs?
You got this
Where's
guy
the hatch?
walking. Yeah. What? Hey.
Hey.
He's looking at. He's looking at his phone. He's on. No, it's just,
I'm like, dude, you could have gone and looked at the city plans.
Yeah.
It's called Zemas.com.
Yeah, make a better plan.
Yeah.
Research is better than
Right?
he did.
Come
All right,
on.
so let's get off this. Here's
Let
what
me
I'm talking.
tell Kathy really quickly. So he has been attacked one time. He went on Adam Carolla's podcast live in Irvine and made a comment about Sarah Palin.
Yeah, this was crazy.
And 2 days later, he and I were we were on the road sitting, eating something, and I got an alert on my phone, and it says, comedian Christopher Titus threatens to assassinate Sarah Palin,
Yeah,
and
I had
Bill
a
O'Reilly
tiny bit
is
of this.
going off
So
on
what
him
happened was
and-
Bill O'Reilly. So what happened was I was on Carol's podcast.
Yeah.
It was that. Remember that she was in. It's the dumb that these people are is crazy. Palin's dumb is crazy. So she's at the Paul Revere Museum, and she says, "Oh, he was amazing. He was shooting the guns and ringing the bells, and like she had no concept of it."
Right.
And I was on Carol's podcast, and I just said, I said, if she gets elected vice president, I am going to reserve a spot on the grassy knoll and just wait for my country. I'm just going to wait.
Right.
And the audience laughed. It's obviously a joke.
You are a comedian.
Yeah,
By the way, if there's one thing I know, it's the First Amendment, honey. I know that one wall to wall.
Yeah.
My joke is I don't know the other ones.
Yeah.
But I know that first one.
Yeah.
And absolutely covered under the umbrella of comedy and satire, and you were in a comedic setting, and you're a professional comedian.
Right.
So,
So here's-
anyone who says that you violated it is absolutely wrong.
Right.
And that's part of my new mission is just I sell First Amendment T-shirts on my website.
I'm
So
going.
like,
I will
remember
go.
the language?
both
What
go
is that
get one.
website? What is
You
that
mean
website right now?
KathyGriffin.com?
Yeah.
In my merchandise store, I should tell you, I make tens of dollars a day. It is really lucrative.
As do we.
Just take pity on us.
Yeah,
Just please
yeah.
buy something
Buy
from us.
something for
Yes.
God's sake.
KathyGriffin.com, First Amendment T-shirt.
Thank you.
So what happened was that the next day my phone blows. My agent goes, "What did you do?" I'm like, "What?" And he goes, and I go, "It's a joke. What are you talking about?" So what happened was Bill O'Reilly went on the next day and called me a pinhead and said, "If Mr. Titus wants to come on and talk about this, we would love to have him on." I call my publicist. I go, "Get him now."
Oh.
Bill O'Reilly pussed out so bad. He goes, "No, we're solved now." So here's what I wrote. Here was my apology. I said to the Palins, if you really thought that in a live setting I threatened to kill somebody in your family, fine. If someone said that, maybe I'd be mad too. But that being said, the reason I wrote this joke and the reason the audience laughed, because we as the American public, have set the bar so low on a possible presidential candidate that we would even consider Sarah Palin. You don't give the stupid cheerleader the Uzi.
Yeah.
Christopher Titus. That was my apology.
Right.
and
Drill, baby, drill.
And then Gutman or whatever what's
that
guy's
dude,
name?
I don't know what that dude.
I've never seen a guy not be funny so often and then smile like he's funny.
Right,
Well,
was he the one
he'll
that
go
was the host of the
bada
Five?
bada dita be, and you just go, you didn't say anything funny.
Right, you just do gibberish.
Don't own lame.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So now he's a Politico in his mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to ask you about comedy. This could get off these idiots. I want to ask you about something. Why did you choose to do comedy the way you do it? Now, I watched a lot of your early stuff, and I always thought your storytelling was amazing, and I love that. I grew up on Cosby, pre-rapey Cosby.
Yeah.
And
Me too. The albums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like my brother Russell, whom I slept with, was like at 5. That was my album. 200 miles per hour. All these long 20-minute bits.
Yeah.
So I write like that. And I even have a Cosby cadence, but I don't look like him, so no one notices. But what made you choose this? And then when did you know that the celebrity thing was your niche? When did you figure that out?
Well, I chose it because it's the only way I knew how to do it. You know, I still say to people, like, if people are coming up to me at the airport and say, you know, tell me a joke, I'm like, okay. And I have to explain the whole thing. I go, I probably couldn't write like a knock-knock joke or like a typical joke if I had to. So I just started telling stories because when I was in the Groundlings, they have one show. They have shows on Sunday nights, 2 Friday and 2 Saturday. And the Friday Late Show was the quote alternative show. So people would try out new stuff. And I went to the director one time and I said, you know, it's not really like a costume character bit, but I have like this funny 5-minute story. Can I just open the show? I was opening the show anyway. And so that's how I started sort of doing stand-up, was when I was in the Groundlings. And then wisely, Lisa Kudrow and my friend Judy Toll, who's no longer with us, but she was very funny and she was a writer on Sex and the City. She was so funny.
Yep.
Those two turned to me backstage at the Groundlings and they said, rightly so, they go, you know, you're actually funnier as yourself. They were like, you're a good Groundling. And I was like, thank you. Like, yeah.
Wow, that was your boyfriend that knocked that over. That was your boyfriend. He actually just knocked that over. That's awesome.
He hates
awesome.
Lisa Kudrow. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
And Judy Toll, no love for Judy Toll at all.
That is terrible.
Wow, she's dead.
Terrible.
She's dead.
Randy, how do you live with yourself and me? Wait a minute, I live with them. Anyway,
That's fine, but nobody coughs during the interview, or else you're out of here.
God.
By the way, how bad does Mick Mulvaney feel that no one
God.
said like it's the chief of staff?
He doesn't care. He doesn't give a
he
shit
doesn't know
anyway.
his job.
And
Trump
plus, some
doesn't know his
people think
title.
he was trying to signal him to shut up
Maybe.
because he
I
was
hear they
talking
tried
about
that.
his. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Turns out.
The petulanceness of this dude on a daily basis, I can't fathom that nobody's just going like even the hardcore Trumpers. Which on my show I said, listen, you guys, you're my fellow Americans. I said, but you have to admit yourself, when that man heads towards a microphone, you have anxiety, don't you? Because and yet they don't. I was trying to figure out why. I think it's because if you call them stupid, they just double down.
They feel you're calling them stupid.
Yeah, and they just double down and they go, no, we want to really.
But
really?
I don't feel that way at all. Like that's the part I don't get. Like, you know, I mean, first of all, I'm all about the down ballot, so I don't even mean to get into the 2020 because I think honestly more people should be more concerned about flipping the Senate, in my opinion. Yeah. At this point, I would argue Mitch McConnell is more powerful than Donald Trump.
He's a Sith Lord. He's a Sith Lord.
He's a Sith Lord. But also, you know, people have to remember the county supervisor is an elected position. And I'm always talking to my LGBT folks about, remember, Kim Davis would marry the two guys. That was an elected position.
Right.
And so I'm all about the down ballot. However, you know, like right now at this very moment, don't at me, everybody, but right now I'm really liking, you know, I'm kind of torn between Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris.
There you go.
But honestly, they're all good. We have a great stable. I think the right is acting like, you know, we're a hot mess. No, we have an embarrassment of riches. But if somebody else just said, you know, I just don't like this about Kamala. I prefer, you know, Eric Swalwell. Okay. I don't want to kill them.
I
don't
just
want
want to
At
see
this
Kamala
point,
debate Donald Trump.
That's
what I want.
Right.
I always
Oh,
said
man.
That's the one poll that finally came out amongst all, I believe, all Americans. Just are like, we may not know who yet, and we may not vote, but we know that we don't want Donald Trump. So that's good. But I also think we can do better than just not Donald Trump. I mean, like I said, I think so many of the candidates are fantastic.
Elizabeth Warren is she's on fire. I think she's on fire.
She's not afraid of him at all,
No.
and she's already proven she can fight him.
Yep.
And I think Kamala has that as well.
Yep.
And I like Booker. I like Castro. There's so many of them I really, really, really like. And the other thing is, I also hope that the ones that don't win, I hope that they go back to their position with all the piss and vinegar they ever had. Because whether or not, you know, Swalwell wins or whatever, he needs to go back and hopefully be just as excited about being a congressman. He's such an effective congressman.
Yep.
He's on either judiciary or Ways and Means.
Right.
Like, you know, and you know, same with all the senators.
We just can't. You can't. And whoever ends up there, the Democrats have made. It's just weird. I just think they're like they're weak on some things. I love them,
Yeah.
but they're like you guys gotta nut up, man up a
Right.
little bit more.
Absolutely.
You gotta be able to bring the heat, like
Absolutely.
these guys, because these guys they don't care at all what they
Right.
say or what they do or who they go after.
It's
or
like
how
a
much they
criminal
lie.
case where we have a ton of evidence.
Right.
They have none. But man, with their repetitive messaging, which is often false, that's the thing we have to do. And my whole thing is, I love Mrs. Obama. And, she should go as high as she wants.
Yep.
I will be down in the mud where I belong.
Yeah.
And I'm very comfortable. But just, I'm always like, look, I get it. And our party, we like to analyze and debate things. We can go back there. But this one time, it's shirts and skins. I mean, this one time, we just have to get as down and dirty. And we have to do what they do. And I don't mean meeting with GRU agents. I mean, do whatever it takes.
Right.
Call people out, be honest, and
back it with
fight,
facts.
fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, maybe it's 3 message points, maybe it's 5, but just get everyone, and Don Bell included, just keep saying them over and over. You did not get more of a tax refund this year. You did not get more of a tax refund this
They
year.
don't
the
even
numbers of
You
90
didn't
realize
get more
that,
of a tax
though.
refund this year.
I can't. How do they not realize that?
I think they just want to believe it's so bad, or they want to believe that they have a chance of being in the 1%, and so they see the Trump jet, and it's. Remember Joe the plumber, and we found out he wasn't even a plumber.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So
Oh,
we
talked
all
about him,
focused
yeah.
on Joe the plumber, and Joe the plumber wanted a better life, and it's like, dude, you're not even a plumber. Your premise is a lie.
Right.
He went for he went for a book deal like instantly. Plumbers
Right?
don't do that.
And then
You're not a
remember
plumber.
Obama went and shook his hand and
Yeah.
talked to him and listened to him as life as a plumber.
Yeah.
When he's
He
not
was
even a plumber.
The whole thing about Donald Trump is he's brilliant at sound bites.
Yeah.
He just has these little clips. The crazy left, the liberal fringe. So now
Right.
people are identifying with us as that. He just, Mueller
I'm
report
a
comes out.
libtard. What else are we? We're libtards,
Faggot,
snowflakes.
liberal faggot,
Yeah.
libtard,
Right.
snowflake. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Snowflake.
usual.
That's funny. These people get that's what I said. There was my
please.
special on Amazon.
They're like a
So
blizzard.
people have reviewed my special on Amazon that are right wing, and I do some Hillary jokes and stuff too. And it's interesting. They don't review the special. They actually counter every joke I said in the special. I'm not a
Like
pundit.
they're fact checking.
Yeah. I'm like
I
a
always say that
fucking
too. I'm like,
comedian.
I am not an elected. Okay, I am not to be held to the
Funny.
same
It's supposed to
standard.
be funny.
Yeah, if it
Just
was
make
funny,
it a yoki yoke.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Let me ask you something. Are you tired of talking about the Trump thing?
Not really, because it's ever evolving. Like, for example, the day that I shot the film, no joke, 2 FBI agents did a no-knock and came to my house, and they woke me up and they said, because there's 3 ways that since the Trump photo, I've been warned by the FBI, and they've been incredibly helpful. So
That's awesome to know.
yeah, it was very bizarre being investigated by 2 federal agencies, the Secret Service and the U.S. Attorney's Office. But
What's up? Okay, this is crazy to me.
Yeah.
You're a comedian. You said you did it out loud. How did this whole thing start? Because again, I didn't say this today. We talked about it off camera. People don't understand that you didn't just hold the president's head up.
Yeah.
The president had said some horrible, heinous shit about Megyn Kelly.
Yes.
I hope she bleed out her
blood
eyes.
coming out of her eyes, blood
bleed
coming
out
out
of
of
her,
her,
whatever.
wherever.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so this was a joke on he's bleeding out his
Yeah,
eyes, whatever.
let's see how he likes
Let's
it
put
when
the
there's
joke in-
ketchup coming
Right.
out of his wherever.
Yes.
Let's put it in context.
Yeah.
And no,
As a woman standing up for women.
right.
Yes.
That's what I thought.
And I purposely did a very stoic expression, because
Yeah.
as you know, I'm a spaz. And I wore like a
so
high
far,
collar.
yes, you're a spaz.
I might know. And I wore like a high collar. I really thought and by the way, you can see it as a joke or a statement. I don't care.
Right.
But the point is, it was completely covered by the First Amendment. So the whole lock her up and the death threats and all this stuff. But what they did to me, which really is historic, and I've looked this up and talked to every First Amendment
nobody.
attorney you can think of, is never in the history of the United States has a sitting United States president used the full power of the Oval Office to try to decimate a private citizen.
Yes.
And certainly not a female comedian, although I was an easy pick
mean,
without
So
without
was-
any big studio or anything behind me.
Was
and so
this his directive?
I believe
indirectly
so,
or
because
Had to be.
because what happened was I got a call from my attorney, and unlike some of the other folks who allegedly threatened the president, they usually do a preliminary call where obviously you have a chance to say, look, I'm a comic,
Right.
and I just, as a woman, I felt like I needed to make a statement. There's a long history in comedy of this kind of imagery, anything from the David Spade movie, 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag, to there's a scene in Death Becomes Her where I think they roll Meryl Streep's head
Yep.
down a bowling
Yep.
alley,
Yep.
and all this other stuff. So I never even got that preliminary call. The call I got was, they have opened an investigation on you, and it's been opened by the Secret Service and the U.S. Attorney's Office, meaning they were ready to indict me. Like, they were like, if we find one thing, I know. I was put on the no-fly list immediately. So I was like, yes.
Comedian, no.
Of course. So I can't make a living.
This is ridiculous.
So I'm on the no-fly list for 2 months. And they were, and once again, this has never happened. And then the DOJ, meaning, in my opinion, it came directly from the Donald and Jeff Sessions, and they could. And so they opened the investigation, and it cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend myself. And eventually
Did you ever
I went
go to court?
They wanted me to do a perp walk. They wanted me to go downtown LA in like the cuffs and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So I talk about this in the film, but in short order, over my dead body. Like, no way. I
Right.
can't have women seeing this. I can't have gay
Right.
people seeing this. I can't have people of color seeing this.
Right.
And this will really ruin anyone's understanding of the First Amendment. So it costs a lot of money to negotiate but I was interrogated under oath by the feds. So, by the way, you're going to like this part. So after the interrogation, which in the film, I walked the audience through the whole interrogation. Because the minute it was done, I turned to the feds and I go, by the way, am I allowed to talk about this publicly? And they said yes. And I was like, yes!
Oh, my.
Oh.
They
Like-
have no idea. Pandora's box?
I mean, it's like word for word. I mean, I was logging it in my
Awesome.
brain going, if it's possible. And it's actually like, the film is shown at South by Southwest and it got a distribution deal, thank God. So
Awesome.
it comes out on July 31st. And
It's your money. You're invested in it.
Yes,
You did it.
I own it.
Awesome.
And I said, nobody
did
else
that.
is going to do it. Exactly. And
So really, you have him to thank for your new special.
I,
film.
thank is a strong word. I will, because, I've known this fool for like 25 years. So he even actually had me, I was never on The Apprentice, but he had me participate in 2 challenges. And one of them was with my beloved Joan Rivers. And so, when I have time, like when I was on tour, I would do like 3-hour shows because people wanted to hear about my own encounters with Donald over the years.
Yeah.
And another time, he personally hired me to roast him on an episode of The Apprentice. So it's not like he doesn't know my shtick or gig. Plus, if you're in New York, you would just he practically walks up and down Fifth Avenue with a sandwich board saying, look at me. Like he's not, he shows up at the opening of an envelope. So, when I have friends saying like, how do you know him? I'm like, are you kidding? When I was doing my Life on the D List, I'd see him at every NBC Uni event and he was doing The Apprentice and he was always ridiculous. And I always have to say to people outside Los Angeles, like, we didn't think he was going to be president.
Yeah,
we didn't take him
really?
seriously,
Right.
honestly. I just thought he was this orange crazy character.
Yep.
I thought he was a realtor like for $1 Million Listing.
Right.
And so
How small of a man is this, though? That he knows you,
Yeah.
knows what you do. This is what bothered me when the whole thing came down, and what bothered me more than anything, and this is that why we even like you even would even do this, is I went off right away. I was like, don't fucking apologize for this. Don't apologize. You
I
don't.
know.
You're a comedian. You don't fuck. I'm glad you took it back.
I took it back.
I told Ray at Australia. I go, she took it back. Good. But you don't. As a comedian, I have this thing. You'll never see it. And we had Tosh apologize for something. A couple of Chappelle. Hey, inherently in my job description, I don't mean
I'll never
this.
do it again.
Yeah.
I'll never do it again. I learned the hard way.
Yeah.
By the way, number one, you can't imagine the pressure I was under.
Oh, my
And
God.
It was, when I found out that I call it the Trump wood chipper, had made a link between my photo and me joining ISIS. And, when I was right, because they're recruiting a lot of 58-year-old redheads, and they love female stand-up comics.
You are literally
I'm their demo.
the poster child
I am
for
their
ISIS.
demo.
That exactly
That's right.
Exactly.
She'd be so good at covering her face and being quiet
being
too.
quiet
I know,
and
right?
submissive,
Looking at the
and
ground. I
Also,
really-
I'm
We're in the
just
pup tent. You gotta
You
wear
can
the
tell
pup
I'm
tent.
good with guns because
Yeah,
I know the decibels.
Yes, decibels. How
and
many
the
decibels?
milligrams. And the milligrams.
That's it.
So I'd be a very high level, very successful.
Who thinks that's gonna work? And how many people? Here's the thing. How many
Okay.
people come up to you and said, "Yeah, ISIS"? Like how many people? How many,
Constantly.
Oh my God.
Constantly. I had a group of 4 people that were my age, which is weird. And, it just was, they looked like my cousins or something. And they were telling me to go back to Raqqa. And I have to say, though, for Trumpers, I was like, oh, you know where Raqqa is? Like, that's interesting. I don't think your Donald could find it on a map. But, and so, yes, so what I found out in doing this film is I was able to go back. And first of all, a lot of things happened sort of quasi in my favor, meaning TMZ came after me really hard. And Harvey Levin had a conversation with me because I went on his that shit show one time to pimp my last book.
Right.
Because when you're on the D list, you'll fucking do anything to sell a
Because
book.
again, you're the best fucking whore we
I
have
was like, like,
show
I'll do
business.
it. I'll eat shit and go on TMZ
Ah,
Live.
exactly. I love you for
and
this, by the way.
Just Kathy Griffin, celebrities, A to Z. And the whole time, Harvey Levin, who I remember back in the day in Los Angeles when he was like a consumer report guy. He was worked for the local news, and he was sort of like the local Ralph Nader. And I just was like, oh, what have you done? You could have been like, you could have done good for people.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was trying to sell me on voting for Trump. And I was like, Harvey, you're gay. You're a gay man. What do you think Trump holds for you or the Republican Party? And then the favorite, I'm sure you get this argument a lot. You just don't understand the economy or economics.
Well, that's the problem because I actually do. And
Yeah.
and it's actually not. That why I'm so mad is because I actually understand
I
economics.
actually do.
And I know
yes,
at Smoot
so-
Hawley, I know what happened when tariffs got put on last time.
Yes.
And we're
That's the thing, the Jedi mind control about tariffs, that other countries are going to pay tariffs.
Right.
When all these people, do you know who's going to be hit most by it? Walmart. Where
Yes.
do Trumpers shop the most? Walmart.
Right.
It's like
and the climate change and all
the truck drivers.
the entire Midwest being underwater. And if one more thing about it's God's will, I'm just like, and the way they've demonized FEMA and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, no one's coming. No one's coming.
demonize FEMA and females.
If he says one more time because it's cold somewhere that climate change is
that's right.
not real.
It's cold weather. Yeah, that's what the scientists say.
Well, weather's not the same as climate.
That's right.
You fucking idiot.
That's
So
right.
tell me. So give me the breakdown of the movie because this is one of those. I really think it's one of those. You're all in on this one.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
With what happened on this, it's your money.
I name names
We did
and
this
tell
last year.
tales.
Good.
Can I throw this out there really
Yeah.
quickly so that we have the information?
Yep.
So it is going to be a one-night only event in theaters, 650 theaters
Awesome.
on Wednesday, July the 31st. So everybody get your tickets for that. Check your local listing. Also,
Go to fathomevents.com. You have to put my name in the search engine and then your zip code, and then the theaters will pop up where it's
Closest to you.
showing.
I'm going to see this.
cool.
Oh, thank
So
you.
excited.
July 18th, they're going to screen it at 51 Fest IFC Center in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And then July 25th, there's going to be a screening at Outfest Ford Theater, Hollywood. So we can go to that one.
Yes. And I just found out yesterday that I was accepted into the Michael Moore Film Festival in Traverse
No
City, Michigan.
way.
Awesome.
So it's good. I'll be hitting the ladies with 51 Fest. I
Yep.
got the LGBTs with Outfest, and then the Politicos with Michael Moore. So, yeah, it's a story that I honestly want everyone to hear just because I want people to understand the myths, and I want people to understand you can, be put on the no-fly list for nothing.
Yeah, wow.
You
For a
can
joke.
be for
You
a
can
joke.
be put
for a
on the
joke.
no-fly
Yes.
list with
and then
this
I was put on the
administration.
Interpol list. So once
Jesus
I was
Christ.
finally able to tour overseas because I knew I couldn't make a living here, and I was in the middle of a 50-city tour, and when the TMZ thing went up, the tour cancellations were coming up, and TMZ was reporting them in real time, which was really odd. So one of the other things I've learned is Harvey Levin did an interview with the Daily Beast and said, "Oh, I consider myself to be Donald Trump's personal publicist." So I was like, okay. You guys
Wow.
I know it sounded crazy when I kind of accused him of that, but there
Harvey
you go.
Levin from TMZ.
Yes.
Jesus.
They
Christ.
talk multiple times a week.
Still?
Yes. Oh, yes. If you look at TMZ, it's very pro-Trump, very anti, like right now it's anti-Biden because that's who's on Trump's radar right now. And also when AMI flipped, Dylan Howard and David Pecker, I'm like, oh, that's why all those hit pieces were out about me because they don't just own the Inquirer. They got Saudi money, allegedly.
A lot of it.
And then
I'm
they-
sorry that book.
It's
they
not
put
even
it-
a legend.
Oh,
I'm in my
never
fucking. I'm in the
mind.
Vons, and there's a magazine about Saudi Arabia. It happened.
How
I
great
didn't-
MBS is.
I was like, what the?
Yeah.
I go, why is this in the
Right.
fucking Vons?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Why?
So during that acquisition, they also got like everything from Men's Fitness to OK, In Touch, Life and Style.
Wow.
And unfortunately, in our industry, people think those are newspapers. And so, I learned a lot in between the incident and making the movie. So that's why I thought instead of just doing a comedy concert, which is 2/3 of the film, I thought I got to make a documentary element because I really was learning a lot of things as I kind of went on my travels. And one thing is, have you been doing shows overseas?
No.
Well, everywhere you go, they're going to hear your American accent and just stop what they're doing, whether it's a cafe or an ice cream shop, and just go, what the hell is going on over there? So the good news is
Right.
I really can say I think I went to 17 countries overseas, and in every one of them, they were just going, what is going on? You were the bastion of hope
Yeah.
and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
democracy for us. And I was
Yeah.
like, sorry, you guys got to make it work with Merkel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
Yeah.
We think we'll be back.
Merkel, by the way,
But-
Germany's now the best. Germany's
Right.
the most
Yes.
forward-thinking. They're on everybody's
and
side.
Bannon and that crowd, they're trying to chip away at her too.
Well, but Bannon, it's funny. Every couple of weeks you hear another thing where Bannon has lost a little more ground. Like this monastery he bought, they weren't paying rent on it, so
That
it got
was
taken
so
away.
great. At the
It's
end,
like,
when
he's
they
so
have
full
the
of shit.
thing
He's
saying
so
like,
full of shit.
he did the whole tour of I'm going to do this year, and at the very end, was it on? I can't remember if it was on Vice, but at the very end when they just said like, yeah, he didn't get the monastery.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what did we just watched a half hour of BS.
But also, I have this problem. Anybody who you walk around and you basically have type 2 diabetes all the time. If you can't take care of yourself, how am I going to listen to anything you say?
Yeah.
You know,
I love that type 2 diabetes is what I would call meth. But you know what? You're entitled to your opinion.
If he's on meth, he's doing it wrong because he's still like
Right?
320
I'm just
pounds.
saying, I believe there may be some substances, allegedly, is my humble opinion.
There was
Yeah.
a psychiatrist that just came out yesterday or the day before and diagnosed him and said he believed possible Adderall addiction,
Oh, I mean, that's the stuff
which would look a little
about
like
like
meth.
if you've been following Noah Kassler's Twitter, he is a guy that I've known forever, and he's like. He's worked as what I would call a celebrity wrangler. Like if I do an award show in New York, like I always am happy to see Noel, and I've known him for like 20 years.
Right.
So he's dipping into comedy now, and guess what? He had, he worked on Celebrity Apprentice, and he just goes on stage and talks about
I saw that.
witnessing Trump
We saw-
snorting rails of
we
Adderall.
saw this guy.
And that the grown kids saw it,
Yep.
and then people were like, "Oh, you're lying." And then he showed a picture of like the set. He's like, "Nope, I've done every finale for this Apprentice and all this other stuff." So he had to go into hiding for a little while. But like
Did you feel like that? Did you feel like I had it? Because I mean,
Oh, yes.
I don't.
Yes.
I'm a better bully than most bullies, so I won't go into hiding. I'll be like, no, this is how it's
Yeah.
going to be.
You know, I
Even-
remember the press conference, the first one that you did, and I probably will never forget it because of the look on your face.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
It was haunting. You could see that we had no idea what you had lived through in those days prior, but that it had rocked your world.
Yeah.
And
the-
not in the good
It's
way.
weird to
No.
see you. It's weird to see you It was weird to see you
Yes.
upset and worried.
Yes.
It's
I was
weird.
genuinely worried. And also, I got bloomed. I'm not a fan of Lisa Bloom. I fired her. And I feel she set me up in the following way. She said, let's have a press conference. I've never had a press conference in my life. I don't know how to do anything like that.
Right.
And I didn't know it was going to be at her office with a banner above my head that says lisabloom.com. She hands me a mug of water that says lisabloom.com.
Do you have your combustion films?
I do. I want to make sure
I
that
just want to make sure.
There
Thank you.
you go,
Thank,
everyone.
Thank
Crowd,
you. Click,
crowd,
click. Hold
crowd
on.
sponsorship. Hold on, picture time.
Oh, I got to get this.
All right.
All
All
right.
right.
Kathy
Hold
Griffin.
on.
Hurry,
Ready? 3, 2, kabam. All right. Thank you. Good. Moving
Sell
on.
them. All right. So, the other thing is she didn't vet any of the press, meaning she put it on Twitter.
Right.
So it was all right-wing press, and I was scared. She said there'd be
no.
security. There wasn't. I brought a security guy. She made him stand in the hall. So there was also a part of that that sort of moment that I was kind of out of the body, but it just wasn't what she said it would be. She said,
Yeah.
we're going to change the narrative and sort of tell the story. And she ended up kind of doing an infomercial for herself, in my opinion, which then gave the right wing all this chum. So they have all that footage of
Right.
me crying and I'm so weak and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, got to get rid of her. And that wasn't easy. She was not pleasant on the way out. I just want to say that.
That's what drove me to send you those tweets, because
Yeah.
I was like, you honestly, let's be honest. As a comic, and not even a female comic, you're one of the baddest motherfuckers out there. You will say what you want to say in the. Let's talk about it in the vein of Lenny Bruce, Mort Saul, whatever. And with celebrities, you have no I know how this business works, and
Yeah.
the people you've gone after, it probably hasn't really helped your career in some ways. Some ways it has.
No.
Some ways it's
You mean
been
when
like,
you call Leslie Moonves a rapist at the Polo
there
Lounge?
you go.
You're welcome, ladies.
You're not probably
You're
getting a
welcome.
lot of meetings to pitch shows.
Well, maybe he shouldn't have raped Ileana Douglas.
There
allegedly.
you go.
So that's all I thought of.
Yeah, exactly. Nice allegedly, by the way.
She's gotten really good at that.
Yeah,
I've
allegedly is
noticed.
nice. So now I've got Ray's about 9.5 years in now, and it's all pro women stuff. Her special is called Attack of the 6-Foot Alpha Chick, and it's all about her family and stuff, but it's also about like what it's like to be a woman right now. Any advice for or even for me too as a comic?
I think number one, if you're female, I'm just going to say you have to work 10 times harder and jump 10 times higher. I don't think that that's changed in my whole career.
And she doesn't. She only works like 8 times harder.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm like, pick it up.
What? That's it.
Yeah.
But the sad thing is, I really, I was good friends with Joan Rivers, as you know, and I
Yep.
really thought that when she took over the Tonight Show, and I was, just a kid in Oak Park, Illinois, I thought, oh, this is it now. Network nighttime talk shows will become half female, half male. And people forget there still has not been one single female to have a network nightly talker. Not one.
Yeah.
So they let Joan have her little run, and then boy, did they make her pay for it. Johnny not talking to her ever again.
What was the real thing
And then
about-
she was like banned even when Jay Leno hosted, even after Johnny passed away.
What did she do? I don't understand. Like I remember this
she,
story.
She saw the list of who they were considering replacing Johnny with, and she wasn't on the list. After hosting all those times, and when she would
killing it.
sub, it would kill.
Right.
It was an event.
She's killing it.
And she went, okay, so she entered negotiations with Fox, and she
Oh,
called
that's right,
Johnny,
that's right,
and
that's
Johnny
right.
hung up on her, and she would well up when she would tell me the story. And she called Ed McMahon, and he said, I'm sorry, that's just Johnny and stuff. But the part, I guess, that I think younger women should know is not only did she break the glass ceiling and, do it the hard way, which is her Fox show, I think, only lasted 2 seasons. And
Yep.
she had amazing guests and stuff. But that she really was the last one. So she must have threatened those dudes so much that they thought, nope, never
Not
again.
doing it, yeah.
And the idea that she was still banned from The Tonight Show after Johnny passed away and all those years that Jay hosted, and I like Jay, but it's who up on high enforced that. And that is the reason I try to be honest with women and go, if you want to do it, you better love it. Like if you think like this is, like I had someone come up to me one time and say, I really want to be a comic because I guess like if you get 15 minutes, you get a pilot. Oh, enjoy that. Take it in.
people ask
Take
you-
it in. You.
Don't they ask you on the road all the time, why don't you have a TV show? You should get a TV show when you get back. And
just to
he's
say-
always head explodes.
Right. I
Just to
know.
say this,
I know.
I went to buy some equipment today because it was our first podcast, and the guy at Guitar Center, I go, I got to get Kathy Griffin to come out today, and he goes, oh wow, he goes, what's she doing now? And I go, she just
They
did
ask
a
him that all the time.
multi-million-dollar tour of the world and kicked ass, and her movie's coming out. What are you talking about, guy that works at Guitar Center? Like, that's the thing that bothers me. It's like,
People say that to him all the time, and he says roofing. I'm roofing.
yeah,
now.
that's
Like,
I do. For now, I tell him, I'll say roofing, or I said,
Light landscaping.
exactly. I do. Yeah, if I can get it.
It's me and Tanya Harding.
Yeah,
we
well,
got a
you can
nice
see-
small mom and pop
If
landscaping
you need
company.
anything,
Yes.
I'm at the Home Depot. I'm usually in the parking lot
Right,
waiting.
right,
Just
right.
pick me
Making the
up.
keys.
I'm the white guy.
Right.
So I, about 4 weeks ago, started getting tweets from people that listen to the podcast
Oh, no.
saying,
I'm sorry in advance.
yeah, does Christopher write your material that's so disappointing? I hate to hear that. And I'm thinking, what?
this is it.
Then I get another tweet from someone else. Oh yeah, I heard that too. And I'm like, you heard that too? Come to find out, I thought it was some random person. It was the club manager of a club in Omaha where we were going in 4 weeks, and we had sold out. And she went on a nationally syndicated morning show all across the country, and they wanted to know what women were funny. And she, to her credit, said I was very funny, but that's because, number one, she's pretty.
But
And
I've written-
right after pretty comes the sledgehammer.
Yeah.
She said, and she's got good stage presence, but he writes everything
Well, I
for
wrote. How
her.
many specials did I write for you?
Oh gosh, you wrote
I mean,
at
of
least
the 24 you've done, I have 6.
23 and a half.
23 and a half. That's right. That's right.
23 and a half.
That's right. The
I
documentary.
just did the good nights.
That's right.
I did the good nights.
So
no, but
I write all the
doesn't
women.
it hurt a little more when it comes from a female? Like
Yeah.
seriously, like
Even I was furious.
In the business.
united we stand, divided we fall.
Yes,
ladies,
so
we gotta get it together.
I actually I lost my mom, and so I don't have that figure, that strong woman. So he gets me on the phone with Elaine Boozler, who gave me the most badass advice
Tell me,
ever.
tell me.
She said Bill Cosby, God rest his soul, is what she said. Told her when she started as a female or a minority in this business, she said, you never never explain and you
complain.
never complain. Never. She says, you go on that radio show after her, and she said, your job is to be funny now. So you write 20 jokes about what he does for you.
Yeah.
He has your period for you. He gave birth to your Yorkies.
So I started
Right,
doing
right.
that too.
Yeah.
And then I
she-
claimed Eliza. I wrote Eliza's stuff. I wrote
And
your
she
stuff.
told me this
Good.
killer Barbara Streisand story where she got completely screwed over by Barbara Streisand, and Bryant Gumbel tried to get her to complain on air, and she just wouldn't. And she said, that's how you'll have longevity. You prove you're funny. Anyone else isn't going to question any,
Yeah.
And so by the time we got home, Elaine, kind of a tiger mama, was already on Twitter tweeting about everything that he does for her.
I wrote for her,
And
too.
Oh, so
she
great.
tagged in Tammy Pescatelli and Eliza, and all these
Good.
women kind of got Judy Gold. Everybody got involved, and he really looked good on Twitter that day. Actually,
I was just owning it. Like I do everything.
but yeah, it does. It's sort of like you think women.
It's something that small that can honestly hold us back for so long because
Absolutely.
guys maybe want to believe it, and then women might go like, oh, okay, I guess it's
Right.
true, and it is one of those things. And believe it or not, even though I'm sort of blacklisted. I can just go ahead and say that. No TV or streaming service will touch me or go anywhere near me. Who knew I was embraced by the film world? I'm an auteur. Yeah. But it's true. I can't, nobody will return my calls, none of that stuff. And, I've made like $75 million over my career. I've worked for NBC, obviously Bravo. I've worked for every network that's ever existed practically. I've been around for so long.
Wasn't this tour this tour was just crazy, this worldwide tour you just did?
Yeah, it grossed $4.4 million. And, it's just me and a bottle of water. I mean, I don't have a big set or anything like that. I don't have an opener.
And
that's right.
You're traveling with you got your boyfriend with you, which is awesome.
Security.
Does he just, are you on stage and he knocks shit over while you're on stage?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make. I'm just asking.
It's bad when you get the light at like 3 hours and 40 minutes. He's like, okay.
He's just trying to get you off.
Okay. Don't you at least have to pee, for God's sake? Something's got to shut
Carlos
this woman up.
Mencia is in the background. Are you going to end the show?
No, on stage we never have to pee. That's the beauty.
Yeah, I know. It's some magical thing. Well, actually, Chris did that for me. He gave me a surgery.
Yeah,
that made it so that.
Yeah.
Well, he was writing one of my specials, and he was.
Well, that was one of my notes to her.
Paying my bills.
I said stop peeing in the middle of your show.
He paid your bills too?
Yes. Yeah.
He's currently
I'm just a
writing.
frail little flower. I can't pay a bill.
I know. I was menopause special.
That's what she said. I was so.
Menopause the musical.
I have to be honest.
She called it Women of a Certain Rage, and we were all the women were like, hold on, if you don't use that.
Right. Somebody grab that hashtag.
Right.
Can I just want to say this about any man that can't handle a strong woman? I'm sitting right now between probably two of the strongest women I've ever met in my life, badasses. And any of you guys out there that can't be in the room with, and whatever, do you think maybe it was an old white guy that messed with you at the top, that messed with your career? Maybe, probably old.
I call them the old white dinosaurs.
Okay.
And the funny thing is, they're the same dudes who have been telling me for 20 years, your nose is too big, you're too old, you're too this, you're too that. Right. It's the same dudes. Mm-hmm. They just, Jeff Zucker, he was my boss at NBC. He was my boss at Bravo, and it was NBC Uni. My boss at CNN, and it's like, Jeff, you think I joined ISIS? You think I signed up and took the plane over there into disguise? Yeah. So
what has made me better in my life, and Ray and I've been together 13, 14 years now, is knowing Ray. She actually, because guys, find a woman that will lift you up, that you don't have to drag along. And by the way, because I think men are afraid that they're going to be the trailer that they're pulling. I'd rather have a partner.
Yeah,
and absolutely. Strong women and by the way, just to your credit, because you could have just told me to fuck off when I was like, hey, don't ever fucking apologize for it's a joke.
Yeah.
And you were like, thank you, I appreciate it, got it. And then and I don't know, it had nothing to do with me, but you changed it after that. You were like, fuck this, I'm gonna own it. It was good.
Yeah, the apology didn't. First of all, it was a very narrow apology, because when my beloved friend Rosie O'Donnell said, people really, really think you're in ISIS, and I thought she was kidding.
Sorry, I'm laughing.
Right?
You idiot.
I know. In ISIS. And card-carrying member. And she said,
do they issue cards? ISIS to ISIS.
Yeah, I used to work in the card shop. I worked in the card shop, and I laminated, and I did lanyards.
I just can't.
And I did the hello I'm tags, for the convention.
Couldn't we have gone from the IRA maybe? Then,
and that would make a little more sense.
Maybe.
Photoshop me in an IRA meeting. That's more their speed.
Like, okay.
And I didn't know that, the memosphere. Minutes after the photo went live, and this is what I get to show in the movie. I didn't know that there were memes and cartoons of me being in ISIS that went global that day. So one of the things I do is I show a montage of that day, the photo being picked up around the world in every in Russian, in Mandarin, in French, in every language, saying oh, Kathy Griffin's in ISIS. And so they were able to start that narrative overseas, and then of course it took up on the 4chan or the 8chan or 16chan or 32chan or.
Did you get any marriage proposals?
Yeah, from ISIS.
I know you got death threats.
I think it would be, I only want to marry you if I can kill you afterwards, which is a very conditional love.
So Alex Jones called you.
Oh yeah, that Alex Rush, Hannity will still write a blog about me if he's bored. They really keep the party going.
So here's what I want to say. You guys have other things to do, but thank you for coming in. Can I just gush? The other thing that you did was so sweet, and that's why, I admit, I had to ask Chris, because I've been around so long. I'm 58, right? I had to be I don't mean to be rude, but have we met? Because I feel like
I must have like run into you somehow, somewhere.
I would be surprised if you guys
and
hadn't.
I didn't want to be that asshole where you were like, yeah, bitch, we did 5 gigs together, you know.
Right.
So I was like, let me just.
I toured with you as your boyfriend.
Oh shit! And you wrote my material. And
Yeah,
had my
exactly.
period. Oh, thank
And I gave you
you
the catheter thing that you needed.
That's right, finally. And so, no, but I also want to say, honestly, it was so sweet, and you were the only one that did this. And considering that, like, you didn't even know me, like, in person, but he would literally tweet stuff like, calm down and breathe. And nobody was doing that. Everybody was doing, you know, and honestly, I just want you to know those. First of all, they stuck out because they were just real. It's like that's what someone would say if they were in my presence. Like I was obviously a wreck and
cared,
and it would. I just really appreciate that. Like I've always, because you know, yes, I shouldn't have apologized, and you're right, and all the comics said that, but you were the only one that was like, you know, but it was like
keep being
like,
you. I said keep being you.
Keep calm and keep doing your thing. And it wasn't like crazy stuff like go get a bunch of crystals and join Scientology, you know. But it was just really sweet. It was just like this is what you would say to a friend.
Yeah.
So
also, we're comics, and the best people in the world I find are comics. We do something impossible. We walk into a room full of strangers, and we have to believe that we are the baddest ass, most charismatic person, and then we have to elicit a real emotion. Music, you can go have a drink, you can talk, you can hit on somebody.
Yes.
Comedy, you got to be focused, and we now have to make you come up with a real emotion every 8 seconds.
Right. And you have to be taking their temperature at the same time.
Yes.
Because you may have gone in thinking,
Right.
oh, it's going to be this kind of crowd, but actually they like this kind of stuff.
And
So you
people
got to
that
make
can
the
do it.
switch in real time.
And people that can do it as well as you do, you have nothing to apologize for.
Oh, thank you.
The cancer you have caused, the tumors you've stopped by making people laugh, you have nothing
Cancer
to
you
apologize
cured,
for.
not
Cured,
caused.
cures.
She
What
said
did I say? Did I say
caused.
cause?
I
Well,
was like,
oh
you
no,
were thinking
on the
there's
right
a
wing. Did I
John
say
Dean,
cause?
there's a
Cured.
cancer on the
sorry,
White House. You meant
sorry,
there's a cancer
sorry.
on the John
You know,
Dean.
Lured
You're
you
quoting
in
John
now
Dean.
to
I'm
flip
saying,
it.
and now, here comes the hammer.
But you cured me. He cured me.
He did.
And there's nothing he can't do for a woman because we're so frail. We can't think for ourselves.
Go the movie. Let's talk about the movie one more time, and then
Okay.
we'll let you go because I know you got stuff to do. The movie is called
A hell of
right
a
there.
story.
Kathy Griffin, a hell of a story, a docu-comedy.
I'm excited about this.
So is
yeah.
it first? Is it? Are you going in and out of the stand-up, or did you the docu and then you start to stand-up?
You know what? In editing, I actually tried it that way the first time where I would intersperse the doc stuff with the stand-up, and I thought, you know what? It screws up the flow.
Right.
So what happens is the movie starts with the stand-up, and then there's a little bit of a Goodfellas like freeze, like wait a minute, there's a backstory, and then there's about a half hour of doc stuff. Some of it is, as they say, raw. We're talking ugly cry, and then
Good.
it goes right into the concert, and then the concert part is uninterrupted.
Okay,
So
cool.
I think it's we went back and forth a lot, but I think it'll play that way. But it's like I said, it goes there, and I take no prisoners. But you're gonna like this part.
Really? Wait, well, hold on.
It's the new me. It's
You-
the new
you
me.
see, you're
I'm not
unleashed.
doing the dogs versus cats jokes
Kathy
anymore.
Griffin Unleashed, and vegans are bad.
Yeah. Oh, can you believe with the gluten? And so I had this movie vetted beyond vetting, and I purposely hired a conservative attorney.
I was going to ask about this.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I was like, I need this thing vetted within
Yeah.
an inch of its life. And I thought, I almost need to get someone from the other side.
Right.
So I love when you
Brilliant.
say when Kathy Griffin comes out and says, "By the way, I'm unleashed in this one. I'm naming names." That's insane. I can't wait to go see the movie. And can I say this? Thank you so much for being on this. As you know, any new venture you try, and to have you as our first guest to go live video is awesome and an honor. Thank you
Thank you so much. And I want to apologize in advance for the robots that are going to flood your timeline. And the 12-year-olds in
loves them.
Macedonia,
Yeah.
because you don't know anymore.
Yep.
And ISIS, the calls from ISIS.
Oh, can you imagine? There's a big board meeting. I couldn't make it today. I was like, I got a gig, and they're very understanding about women. So I said, Kathy, do
sure
your
they
thing.
are, like-
Do your
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
Just be you.
Just be you. That's right. So thank you so much. Honestly, it's my pleasure. And thanks for reaching out all those times and just being like human, being like a human being, because
Yeah.
people didn't really think I was a human being
That's
at that point.
rare.
So
The last thing I'm going to say is that people were surprised that you just continued to be you. It stunned me. You idiots. She's done this for 30 years. What are you
That's
talking
right.
about?
That's right.
What are you talking about? So keep doing that. Go kick ass. People, go see this movie. It's awesome. I can't wait to see it. I love the graphics too.
Isn't it good?
No, it's just like that you're standing at the
And
bar. I like that you just motherfucked everybody. You're like, you know what?
That's right. That's right. I'm leaning in, as they say.
Exactly.
I lean in, I double down, I triple down.
And keep saying what needs to be said, because so many women were upset when he said that about Megyn Kelly, and then we were all quiet.
Right.
And so I'm sorry that you had to go through all of this. Really
I
sorry
like
that you
Megyn
continue.
Kelly, but
I
it
know,
still
me
was like,
neither.
it still was lame that he said it.
It's
To
not okay.
It wasn't about her. It was about he diminished any woman who has an
Yes.
opinion.
Of course.
Yes.
And
of course.
and that's
still will.
bullshit.
Yeah.
And no one's saying anything to him, and so it was really
Right.
refreshing that. I mean, maybe that's why they're not saying anything, though, because they end up on the no-fly list at Interpol.
That'll
But
do it. That'll do
hey,
it.
better you than me. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
I had a lot of
doing that.
adventures in detention.
Guys,
you know.
thanks for watching the Titus Podcast. For myself, Bombshell, and the amazing Kathy Griffin.
Yay.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks,
Peace
guys.
out.